The third and final Retaliator and Bonesaw raid has come and almost gone, and today I want to talk about my raid experience, the things I liked about the targets, the things I didn't like, what changes, if any, I will be making to my fleet before the next time we see them is, my overall high-level plan for the World Eater, and a few other notes. Let's go ahead and look at the leaderboard. Now I just got about 80 million points, which put me at 1.5k globally, which seems like numbers should drop in a little bit. I would be interested to see how many active players total there were if someone has an alt account that just hit one target, but that's besides the point. Number one player got 860 million, and I'm recording this the day before the raid ends. It's probably even higher when that does end. Now I ended up getting about 80 million points through doing 25 sets of targets, which included the entire top level. I didn't hit any of the lower level stuff with the Agamemnon or the Pathfinders. It's really not worth the points, even if I could do it for instant repair. If you are a new player, I would recommend that generally, but I don't really think it's worth it for me, so I didn't do it. Now overall, the 104 and 1204 are supposed to be auto targets, which I definitely autoed those ones. The 104 was less than an hour of repair, and the 1204 was around about 1 hour. Now, the 1205 target, I get about 40 minutes repair if I drive it, and 1 hour repair or so if I auto it, so I elected to just auto the 1205 target with the Bonesaw, because honestly, the Bonesaw, at least the way I built it, which I will discuss briefly in the build section, is a very good auto hole because it's a very bad driving hole, and it's really, really difficult with at least the standard build that Kixeye sort of pushes on us to have any sort of damage differential from driving versus autoing. And quite frankly, I just don't really like it, and I don't like having to drive and build a second fleet, so I auto that target. Now, this raid was a little bit of an unusual one for me. I left and went outside for 3 days this weekend, which means that I didn't have a ton of time, and I ended up autoing the 105 target as well. This one was pretty painful and got about an hour and a half of repair. It depends a lot depending on what crew I was using, what angle I was entering at, if I actually went into the target and stopped my fifth ship, which made it sure that only the things that were moving were taking damage, and the thing that just has mortars on it wouldn't take damage like crazy. But that's besides the point. I probably drove about 10 targets total this raid. Most of those were 105s, and guess I drove one target of everything just to make videos on that, which you all saw on the first day of the raid. So that was my overall raid experience, a ton of autoing. I would log on in the mornings, I would take the 104 and 1205 fleet, whichever, and I would auto about 6 to 8 different targets with each one of those, just in the background when I'm doing something else, getting ready, cooking dinner, etc. And that was pretty good because I could auto 5 targets at a time, hit about 100 targets total, only need to log on about 10 times because I have 2 fleets going on at once. So that was a positive thing out of the raid. The other thing is that these targets do drop different chests. Now, hitting the Retaliator target drops chests that give Bonesaw equipment, and hitting the Bonesaw chest, or hitting the Bonesaw target, gives chests that drop Retaliator equipment. This meant that in addition to the random 5,000 points, if you can do enough of these targets, you can actually go infinitely long because you get repair tokens for the other fleet from hitting the target. Last raid, these really weren't worth it to me. 2 raids ago, I wasn't able to hit enough targets. My fleet took too much damage, but this raid, I could almost go infinitely just by hitting a ton of targets and getting these chests out of here, which was a positive thing for the third raid. It meant that yesterday, day before, I still have some 12-hour, some 3-hour repair tokens for the Bonesaw and the Retaliator, but I've gotten pretty much everything I want from the prizes. Now, what did I actually get? I got World Eater upgrade tokens, enough to get 4 ships up to U1, or I mean U3. We will, of course, have X1 and Cap that comes out. Cap is going to be a different thing. It's going to be the Capital Core upgrades. But these 4 will be, these 200 kits I got are enough to get 4 ships up to U3, because we also got 200 free kits as part of the 12 Days of Kixmas, which means I have 400 total, and I can actually get, again, 100 kits per ship up to U3. I can get that going pretty easily. I did, of course, get the World Eater, which you need. It's the next season's hull. And the most important thing you should take out of this video is that 100% of the physical shipyard time that you have right now should be spent building or preferably upgrading the World Eater. Don't spend any more physical shipyard time or generic tokens on the Retaliator. Don't build old things, build new things. That's the way that you get ahead or really just stay current in Battle Pirates. So of course I got this. This is actually an assault hull, although some of the tech can be used on both assault and garrison, which should be interesting when we see a garrison hull, which by the way we have added to the standard raid now. This is likely going to be the last tier 13.5 hull, which means lab upgrades and stuff like that are going to be right around the corner, which will reset the refit time modifiers for the next tier 14 hull we're going to get. I'm going to come out with a build video for this later this week, so stay tuned for that one, likely after VXP weekend. We also do have the Soul Gore engine, which I guess is an interesting name. Very, very minor upgrades, nothing interesting to this one. It has a little bit more survival than previous tiers. If you have the points, get it. If not, just get enough of the extra ones. You probably were given a free fleet or something that has extra ones on there. I did elect to get the common UAV, even though I am going to likely get enough limited items, but this means that if in strike I don't want to or don't have my fleet ready, I won't have to go crazy trying to get 10 or 15 chests in that one because I have the common UAV, although you can probably get it in strike as well. There's also a special that came out with this one. Of course, it's nothing crazy. It's a UAV standard special, so it's a slight upgrade over the previous ones, and has chaining range, which of course is nice. It should be interesting to see how these UAV chaining dynamics work, because Kixeye can sometimes do some weird things with these UAVs. I also did get 10 or 15 of the chests. I'll show you my results from those ones later. 1.5 million each, not really worth it, but I will get more legendary as that continues to go on. If you didn't know, there's a cap. I think it is 40 uncommon, 40 rare, and 40 epic that you can get, and probably also 40 legendary or something like that, which means that the more chests you get better and better results. So when I open my 100th chest, it's much more likely to be legendary than my first chest is. And of course, I also got the Mindwire UAV Relay, just the new stuff that came with this. This one has chain count, the other has chaining range, so they should stack pretty nicely on there. So that's all the new stuff I got, and then what about the old stuff and other items like that? Well, I did actually get a few Bonesaw chests for the officers. Those are all the way down in the Dreadnought tab. I got 5 of those. I have 2 of them I have yet to open, so we're going to do that live on camera here. Didn't bother getting any of the Wraith chests or the other items there. I didn't really think that they were worth it for how few times I'm actually going to use the Bonesaw. Already had my Retaliator at Cap 1. I did not need any of the capital cores. It is pretty expensive, so I already had that. I am at capacity for the 2-day structure build token. If I was not, I would get it and not spend it. I would get it and save it, because we are expecting to have labs and other such coming out in the very, very near future, likely January, February timeframe, should be the new outpost. Okay, taking a look at this, I didn't get anything else. There are Retaliator upgrade tokens which I could use because one of my ships is not yet cap, but I elected to not because, well, I think I'm just going to try and do the TLC the next time those come around. And that's about it for things I actually got and would consider getting. Notice I'm not getting any Retaliator stuff, any Bonesaw stuff. As I said, those are both old. I probably should use my Defender build tokens and then buy 2 more of those, but I haven't. A little bit too lazy on defense at the moment for that one. Okay, now let's talk about the fun stuff, which is the build I'm using on the ships or my fleet. So taking a look at the Bonesaw first, this is the one that is up to E10. The Bonesaw here is how I have it built. It's got armors, which are mostly legendary. It has, even mix of radioactive and ballistic, if you're interested in that one. Definitely has some teeth taker chain guns that are very, very old that are uncommon. I've not been getting as much of the weapons from these as I should have. In fact, the first raid or 2, if you remember watching this video a month or 2 ago, I had a few slots that were empty because I didn't actually redeem the common one at all. But I think I do have that now, or at least I have enough slots to fill this up here. In terms of the specials, I did actually equip the Marrow Spill Conduit over what was on here before. I believe it was a Ballistic Battery 3, and this will increase building damage, ballistic damage, etc. a little bit more than that one would, which is nice. Overall, a very small upgrade, but probably okay to do, and this has been at E10 since the last raid. Of course, I just do have 3 of the 10-inch CICs on here. I also do have 3 officers. I have the Weaver Officer I'm not going to try and pronounce that name, starts with an X. And the second one here is just a 8% building damage Scald officer. This one is not very good, but I don't have anything better at the moment. And I was lucky enough to get the Captain Thackerus, which is the best possible officer slash captain for this one. If you compare this one's benefits against the second one, the first one is way better. And by the way, anything that starts with captain can only be equipped in the first slot. And of course, my Bonesaw is up to E10, which is fantastic. It has been like that for a while, ever since we got the E10 upgrade. I believe it was in the third strike. Nothing too crazy here, and let's talk about the build. I did mention that I did auto a ton of stuff, and that's how I intend to use the Dreadnought. People who have a build like this one, except all the armor being D5 EV armor, have much better results when they're actually driving. I've elected to not build my ship this way because I like to auto with it, and also it increases the repair time if you add on D5 EV armor compared to what I have here, but that is something worth trying. If you are seeing people have really low repair times, they're likely using this. The next time I use the Bonesaw will either be in a TLC, which is pretty unlikely, or definitely in the Forsaken mission. This will replace the Agamemnon in the FM targets, and I'm going to auto those ones because I think the FM is a chore and should be autoed, so I'm going to keep the build as is, no changes to what it is right now. Taking a look now at the Retaliators, I will actually show you that I still have 1 damage because I haven't repaired it and the raid is currently ongoing. I have 4 damage ships built the exact same way, including the flagship on this one. Now I will note that the flagship, if you look at the armor points this has, is 145 million compared to the regular ones, which is 118 million. There is no King Killer in these targets, and each of these 2 ships repairs at the same time, which means that the flagship actually fixes its armor faster than the regular ships. It's a term we call repair efficiency, and that means that you can repair 1 point of armor faster than like 1 point a second, which is what the standard used to be, isn't really anymore. But you can repair the flagship faster, you can repair more armor points, which means that you can take more damage and actually have less repair time, which is nice. Now this means if you have 1 ship as a tank, ideally it would actually be the flagship. But mine is not the flagship, it is in fact ship number 5 here, because I knew we were going to have upgrades coming out for the flag, which were going to take a long time, and we also weren't even going to have the flagship in time for the first time we used this fleet, which is completely asinine if you're Kixeye. I would push strike back by 1 month so that, you know, the third strike was after the third raid, and the first strike was after the first raid, but that's besides the point. Now, my damage ships I mentioned are all built the same, obviously with a little bit differing of the equipment levels in terms of the rarity on the armors and the weapons, etc. I have the best ones on there. In fact, I should have the best armor defensively on the ship that is only X1 rather than the other ones there. I will note, and I did not mention this correctly in a previous video, that the capital upgrade only applies to ships which are at a capital ore level. So that's just something to point out there with that one. And that is really only the defensive bonus, which honestly is relatively small compared to X1, but it does also work with the capital upgrade level from X1 on, or from Cap on the actual fleet. If you didn't notice, Kixeye did reduce the upgrade time to Cap 1 on the regular ship and basically split the upgrade level across the fleet, with maybe a little bit higher of a build time on that one, and it does require you to spend more points on cores. Okay, taking a look now at the evade ship, this one I'm not going to change the build for, and it does mean when I auto it, I should just take this ship out of the fleet entirely if it is not an auto target, such as the 105, 103, 101, etc. That should just get taken out completely, because again, it just stops and tries to shoot over mountains. The pathing is totally different. But I really like the build I'm using. It has a very high evade, and of course is the first one that you should be getting up to Cap, which you know, just for the survival bonuses, it has 95% evade, or 94% before you factor in something like alliance bonuses or a Sea Serpent's crew. Not intending on changing this build here, it's something I definitely like, I'm going to stick with for the few times I do actually end up autoing this with this fleet, which I may do or definitely will do for future TLCs for the next siege fleet in about four raid cycles or so when we get the next replacement. But that is the bit in terms of the capital upgrade. Now, of course, the time you have been waiting for is when I take my last 2 Bonesaw officer chests and open them to see if I get a common crew that I already have, or if I actually get a new gold 3-star crew which I could use on my fleet. Let's go ahead and open 2 at once, and I get 2 officers that do basically nothing, which is not as good as even the one that I have on right now. I can't actually even see what they do. There's no way to view these officers unless I actually refit the ship, which I can't do because I have something else refitting, which is the World Leader going up to U3. But if I actually do look at my Bonesaw in 5 hours or so, you could see that I think one of them gives 8% building damage, 8%, which is the one I have on, and then another one gives 8% ballistic damage when everything's a building. Those 2 are the exact same, and it doesn't even matter. So there goes, I think, 8 million points for just about nothing. 10% of the raid points that I got just got me nothing. And that's on Kixeye. If you want this video to end a little bit more exciting, you could, cook it up a little bit and give me some better officer rewards there when I have 2 gold 3-star crews on there already. I'm curious for you all in the comments below, how many targets did you get through, or how many sets did you get through? I got through 25, and how did you like the raid? I liked it great because I could auto it with the build and setup that I was running, but I was also able to get the targets down to a manageable repair. The 2 Retaliator ones were less than 10 minutes or so, driving it just 1 or 2 times. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you if you have any questions for me. With that said, and until next time, I want to give a huge thank you to the channel members who are watching and are supporting the channel. With that said, this is Derpy, signing out, helping you be a better pirate.